What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. You're listening to episode 173. I am your host, Greg. I am here tonight with Ryan. Tyler decided to rejoin us, but we are also here with Nolan Bianchi tonight. Nolan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me. It's feels like a long time coming, I obviously was on the Lockdown Red Wings podcast, but we always had a friendly relationship. Me and Ryan, we yuck it up on Chell sometimes. Unfortunately, my creative player Dumpster Buns is currently on IR, but it's good to see you guys. Good to talk to you, and thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we miss you in the podcast space. We're friendly with all the podcasts, and as you know, Rowan famously kills off podcasts, and there's been several casualties.
Made it through 2 rounds of that so far. We're doing good.
Yeah, we somehow have survived. But Ryan and Tyler, how are you guys doing?
I'm good. I mean, it's nice to have a full group tonight, Tyler. It's nice to see you and hear your voice. I can't wait to have discussions tonight after such great Twitter interactions. But I'm doing good. It's been nonstop softball, as you can probably tell by my sweet tan line that I got going on here. But not too bad. The playoff hockey's been fantastic. It's nice not having a chicken in the fight. So it's nice to watch other people suffer for a change instead of our own suffering.
Tyler?
I'm doing well. The playoffs have been good. I feel like it's gotten better as the nights have gone on. I think that the beginning it was kind of hard to watch. I'm not even going to lie, but it's certainly gotten better. And the game sevens were fantastic. And the weather's been good here, so I really can't complain too much.
It was hot as balls here yesterday. I almost died in the heat.
But how hot was it?
89? I think my car thermometer said at one point. We haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. But we do have a show tonight. And by a show, I mean, I had planned a show. And then I called for a mailbag, and then pretty much all the mailbag questions were what my plan for the show was. But off the top, now initially this was going to be a one-on-one heavyweight bout, but Nolan also has input on this, as do I. So if any of you were following along on Twitter, was it the past 4 days or so, 5 days? Tyler is a huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
There we go.
And Tyler,
you're even wearing blue tonight, Tyler.
It's a Gymshark shirt. Jesus
Is it?
Christ.
Looks like the side of a maple leaf to me.
Tyler had said that basically he wanted Tampa to lose because the Toronto fans deserve to make it out of the first round of the playoffs, where we all called absolute bullshit. And I think I'm going to let Tyler plead his case. And Nolan, are you on Tyler's side or our side?
No, I'm definitely not on Tyler's side.
Okay, so we're going to let Tyler plead his case, and then we will provide a rebuttal to Tyler's case. So Tyler, please state your case about why you love the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I'd like to start by saying I am not a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I'm an Austin Matthews fan, and I want to see that guy succeed at all costs. Selfishly enough,
Arizona.
He's one of the only Hispanic players in the NHL. And I am half Dominican, so I want to see him succeed. I like him, regardless of whether he's on a rival. Unless it's Chicago, then fuck the Blackhawks, obviously. I am not a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I'm not a Toronto Maple Leafs apologist. I will say one thing. I have a couple of friends that are close friends of mine that are Toronto Maple Leafs fans that I like more than most of my friends that are Boston Bruins fans, and that's the reason why I'd like to see them get past the first round, because then they can fucking start saying shit to the Bruins fans who they, have choked in game 7 to. I will say another thing. The Maple Leafs are like the Cubs of the National Hockey League right now. They haven't won since 1967. They haven't won a playoff series since 2004. The Leafs are due. It's not like they have a bad team and they suck and they shouldn't make the playoffs. They make the playoffs every single year. At one point or another, you're supposed to win a round. I'm not going to say the officiating, fuck them. You got to kill the 5-on-3, whatever. You got to kill the 5-on-3. The Leafs had game 7 at home. Every other team won game 7 at home. And the Leafs
made it so much better.
The Leafs couldn't do it. So, I mean, yes, we can touch on the officiating. I don't think it was great early on in this series. I don't think it was great early on in every series. But as it does every single year, as the playoffs go on, they call less and less, which is better, by the way. And we'll talk more about that. I'm not a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I don't know where that all came from, just because I wanted them to beat Tampa. Why the fuck do I want to see the Tampa Bay Lightning have a chance at winning 3 Stanley Cups in a row?
Because
I think that's our biggest rival, the Tampa Bay Lightning right now.
Is there a single one of us on this right now that wants Tampa Bay to win a cup?
No.
Do you think the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup?
No.
Okay,
but it's fun to watch their fans cry and get so worked up because they're like, this is our year, Tyler.
I have a lot of people that are close to me that are Toronto Maple Leafs fans who I actually like and respect. They don't say shit about the Wings. I don't say shit about the Leafs. I have no problem with them. And I don't have problems on Twitter with any Toronto Maple Leafs fans either. The Leafs are like the least of my worries when it comes to the NHL. The Wings have 4 Stanley Cups in my lifetime and 25 years in the Stanley Cup playoffs in a row. Why am I going to, and this goes back to the same argument that I had with Pete. Why do we have any room to talk? We shouldn't even stoop to that level. What is the point of talking against the Lightning Maple Leafs? What does that do?
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead, Nolan.
Okay, one thing. To call them, put them on any of the same level as the Cubs is like crazy, because the Cubs, when they were their bad awfulness, like they own their place in the baseball world. They were like, oh, we are the lovable losers. Toronto fans are the exact opposite of that. And the Toronto Maple Leafs as a whole are the exact opposite of that, because what they say is we are the center of the hockey universe. Everybody wants to be us so bad, blah, blah, blah. And they come in with this like condescending attitude of like, oh, it's always about the Leafs. It's always about the Leafs. It's always about the Leafs because they make everything about the Leafs. It's always about the Leafs because they lose in a funnier way than anybody else in the entire sport. To go 5 straight years of losing a winner take all game 7, game 5, whatever you want to call it. There was that COVID year in between, and lose every single one of them is objectively hilarious. But here's the thing, they're not the Lions, because Lions fans know that they suck. Toronto Maple Leafs fans think, again, still, that the Leafs are the center of the hockey universe, and it is simply not true.
So let me ask you this: are Leafs fans what Michigan fans were before this season?
Yes, and those Michigan fans were annoying. Okay. And it was, and as somebody who like roots for Michigan, like I did not like those fans, because it was like, dude, will you shut up? Like, read the room a little bit. And that's what Toronto Maple Leafs fans will never do. I was listening to Steve Dangle's like end of year LFR video. And he was like, people who, this is their Christmas. He said there are some, and I like Steve Dangle.
I do too.
I love Steve Dangle. I find him very entertaining. I think he's a good dude. And like, if there was one person who I was like, oh man, I wish the Leafs would have pulled through for this person, it was Steve Dangle, because, whatever.
For Steve Dangle's heart.
This is what he said that I think sums up perfectly why everybody enjoys watching the Leafs lose. He said, there are some people whose entire identity is consumed and wrapped around the Toronto Maple Leafs losing. This is their Christmas. What are you going to do for the rest of the summer? Blah, blah, blah. That could not be further from the truth. And that is actually the reason why it is so funny to watch the Leafs lose, is because they think that the Leafs losing is more important to people than their own team winning. And it is simply not the case. And they continue to tout that every year, every game, every series. It will never stop. Their brashness like just never runs out, and watching them lose in horrific fashion year after year after year and not win a single playoff series, now owning the longest playoff series drought in the entire NHL, is objectively hilarious, given the way that they carry themselves and tout their, whatever prestige.
Well, quietly, the Minnesota Wild have now lost 6 consecutive playoff series as well. So.
But they're the Minnesota.
But nobody
Wild.
cares about the Minnesota Wild. And the Wild
sure care about the Minnesota Wild.
I'm sure they do, but the Minnesota Wild don't come out and say like, we're the best team every year. You wish you were the Minnesota Wild. Every single Minnesota sports fan knows how bad they have it. Every single Minnesota sports fan knows that their team is going to let them down, and they speak to other fan bases.
And you don't think deep down that the real Leafs fans, even Steve Dangle and other people that are diehard Leafs fans, don't have that feeling in the back of their mind? I know I do as a Michigan fan. In the back of your mind, you know what? How are we going to fuck this up this time?
Sure, but it's what you say in the intermediary and how you present yourself and the prestige in the meantime that annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah. Now, this is the thing, Tyler. Red Wings fans, we know the team is bad. We openly say the team is bad. We accept the fact that they're bad. We know we're not doing anything. The problem with Toronto, and the reason I compared them to the Lions, is because they find the funniest ways to lose games. The Lions always lose in a way that you go, that is so Lions.
That's why I compared them
like
to the
that.
Cubs.
And Nolan is 100% spot on. It is because the fan base of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a large portion of them, at least the ones that talk online, are so arrogant. They are so full of themselves. They every single season throw their entire weight behind the team. This is our year. This is the year we're going to be amazing. Look, Kyle Dumbass spent $1 bazillion on our team.
He's going to suck.
Okay. Yeah. You can say our team on paper is good, but you can admit when the team makes bad moves. They make every move seem like a blockbuster, like they're beating every other team on the face of the planet.
They're the Dallas Cowboys of hockey.
And the Dallas Cowboys blow.
The best comparison you've made yet.
I would disagree because the Cowboys have won playoff games. Sure. And they have a recent dynasty. Like the 90s we're getting a little bit farther away from that every day.
Don't remind me.
But they have a recent dynasty. They're constantly in the mix. The Leafs have been good for 5 years.
Yeah.
When's the Cowboys' last playoff? It wasn't Detroit, was it?
Yes, maybe.
Oh, bitch.
So the thing is though, but it's the same kind of fan base where Cowboys fans are like rabid, but Leafs fans, if we would not be like this with the Leafs, if the Leafs fans were not so insufferable.
But I don't
and the
think
Toronto
it's just
media,
insufferable. I think it's the fact that they care as much as they do, just as Michigan fans do, by the way.
How much do you care about the Red Wings?
More than just about anything in the world.
Do you go into every season saying this is going to be our year? Our team's amazing. Every other team sucks. We're going to win.
Before 2016, 15, somewhere around there. Yeah.
But you had a reason to.
Yeah.
The Leafs haven't won anything in recent memory. You can't go saying you're going to be the best if you haven't gotten out of the first round of the playoffs since 2004, Tyler.
I just personally, I don't understand the hatred for a franchise that hasn't done a goddamn thing.
It's the fans. It's the fans, and it is Canadian hockey media who puts them up on this pedestal that they have not earned nor don't deserve with how much they have failed consistently every year. Yet TSN's putting them up on that pedestal. Sportsnet's putting them up on that pedestal.
They sell ratings.
Michael Bunting is a Calder nominee because he plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's probably true. But I will say one thing: those Sportsnet and TSN and those networks, they put the Leafs on there because they know the Leafs have the most fan base in Canada, or next to the Montreal Canadiens. Give or take, whatever.
Yeah,
they're trying to diversify.
On the same boat.
What's that?
They're right there with Toronto. At least they've won something in recent memory, but they still are right there neck and neck with the fan bases that you love to watch just completely suffer. And that's why it was so upsetting to see Bergevin go, because he added to that over a year. You look at teams like Edmonton and Calgary, they haven't won since the 80s. But you can actually sympathize with those teams because you have one of the best players in the world, if not the best player, in Connor McDavid. You've got an aggressive, like mid-90s style team in Calgary out there beating the shit out of people and making things happen. You love to hate those teams, but you can sympathize with them. Edmonton, like we've talked about, their fans know they're going to get let down somehow. But guess what? They finally weren't this year. And it's kind of great to see because you saw the passion and excitement out of Connor McDavid. You see that with Austin Matthews, but it's ruined because you got some dickbag with his shirt off running around saying that we're the best after they just lost, but then they're fighting each other in the stands.
And to add to that, when the Oilers lose, they don't go out and start attacking people like this is the best day of your life. Congratulations. It's as good as it's going to get. No, they're just like, we suck, and we knew that was coming, and we understand why the entire world is laughing at us.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I know, they're Leafs fans, passionate people. They love the game of hockey, and I mean, they're from what I know and from the people that I've been with for the most part, they're pretty self-deprecating, and when the team sucks, they know it. And
so maybe they should get online and talk to other Leafs fans and tell them to shut up.
Bingo.
Because we need more Leafs fans that can take stock in what has happened to their team and admit that maybe they should tamper their expectations early on and not go in thinking they're automatic Stanley Cup champions because they have a top line.
I don't think people, well, I mean, maybe people do, but from my perspective, I think a lot of people have just said, we're going to make it out of the first round this year. And I mean, did you really think they wouldn't? I mean, they have. Yeah. Hell, if they would have gotten the Boston Bruins, they would have made it out of the first round.
I don't think you. I think you could have put them versus anyone, and they would not have made it out of the first round because that's the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, but at some point they got to make it out of the first round. You know that.
Sure, they'll make it out of the first round after the Wings win their next cup. How about that, Tyler?
Hopefully.
The last thing I want to add is like the if I could really distill what really bothers me about the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base online in general is like if you tweet out like something about the Predators, they come at you with something about the Red Wings. If you tweet something about the Oilers, they come at you with something about the Red Wings. If you tweet something deprecating about the Leafs fans are like, why are you talking about the Leafs? Of course you're talking about the Leafs because we're the best. And like they think that like other fan bases talking about them is like such a point of pride when in reality, like people are just hockey fans and they watch games and they observe and they tweet about them. But for some reason, it's only a problem that I've seen with Leafs fans.
I would say I might also throw Coyotes fans in there, except for the Coyotes fans get really mad and then block everyone.
I think the worst fans on Twitter by far, Tampa Bay Lightning.
I can't agree.
Because they're arrogant about the success. Because if that's the case, like they have earned that right.
Sure. Yeah, they have. They can be.
Okay, let me just say something about the Tampa Bay Lightning fans.
Aren't you a Patriots fan?
I don't really care about the NFL that much. I'm a fantasy football fan.
Here, Tyler.
So full of shit.
Tyler.
I like the Patriots, but I like college football better.
Anyways, is the worst online fan base.
On that.
Toronto's the worst online fan base. Second to me is the Montreal Canadiens because their fan base is also insufferable.
No, because Habs fans, if you mention Montreal Canadiens or Habs in a tweet, they find it.
Oh, they do. They search it out.
And then then all you got to do is tag Rowan and it's over. But that's besides the point.
All right, Ryan, would you like the last word on this before we actually move on to the meat?
Are we going to get to the officiating at some point?
Oh yeah, Ryan, you can wrap it up.
And how about the rivalry portion of this?
We don't have a rivalry. We suck. You don't earn a rivalry until you're actually a good team.
But Pete is arguing with me. He goes, you're defending our biggest or one of our biggest rivals. I'm like, since when? We haven't played in the playoffs since 93.
You don't need to play in the same division
for years.
No, you don't need to play in the playoffs to be a rival.
Look at the history of this league, going back to even when it was original 6. I get it. They were in opposite conferences for a very long time. But all you have to do is look at the crowd when either Detroit's in Toronto or Toronto is in Detroit. That tells you everything you need to know about what these teams mean to each other, how the fan bases react, and how the teams play. This through and through, whether they've met in the playoffs or not, is a rivalry. And it goes back to the beginning of this league.
I think rivalries die and are revived. I think that rivalry has been dead, just as the Colorado one has been dead for a long time.
You can say
Colorado. But the Blackhawks one was dead for how long? The Chicago Blackhawks in like 2004 were rated as like the most pathetic franchise in all of sports. And it was true. You couldn't watch the games on TV. They were
worse than the Denver.
Trash. They were as low as you could possibly go. And all it took was one playoff series between the Red Wings and Blackhawks, and boom, baby, we're back. And that's the same exact like type of dynamic that the Red Wings have with the Leafs. And the Red Wings and the Leafs like have played in the playoffs, just not in the last 30 years. Like it was
the last time, and
right, which isn't really that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And what I'm saying is, if they meet again, most living fans still have that hatred inside them. And if they meet again, it's immediately going to go back up in flames, because that is it's really just the dynamic of like a hardcore original six rivalry. Like,
but
it just
I also
doesn't
think like
take
if the
much
Red Wings and
back.
the New York Rangers were to meet in the playoffs, there would be a rivalry after that. If the series was crazy and it went 7 games and there was all kinds of bad blood in the series.
Tyler, do you remember the Winter Classic?
The drop. Why did the Red Wings and the Avalanche have a rivalry? Because both teams were good for a long period of time, and they had some series, that were highly exciting and highly, physical and everything else. And at that point in time, those were the 2 best teams in the NHL, or at least in the Western Conference.
The reason it's Toronto, Tyler, and the reason it will always be Toronto is because of one of the big things is the proximity of the 2 teams. You can get the fans here. We can go there. We pack each other's arenas. There's always the Let's Go Red Wings, Go Leafs, Go chant-offs. It's the atmosphere that is brought to the arena when the Red Wings play the Leafs. Now, it's not as good anymore because our team sucks. But when our team is good, say 3 seasons from now, when we're in the playoffs, and 3 seasons or 4 seasons when we're going to start contending for a cup, it's going to get heated again, especially because we play them so much and because we are so close to them. But that would be why. But Ryan, I want you to speak your piece on officiating, and you can start off this officiating conversation.
The officiating as a whole has been fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, I went as far as had Tim Peel making a dumbass comment on me saying that every official should be fired because of the altercations that have taken place. But we are all on the same page, and we've talked about it many times throughout this season. Officiating needs to be better. And what I mean by that is you have a rule book, you call it.
I think you mean officiating needs to be consistent.
Yes, consistency. Is everything in the rule book going to be called? No, we know that's not going to happen. We know that there's the human element. There always will be. It's one of the few sports you can probably objectively say that it's almost near impossible to get any type of technology. Maybe they should think about that for offsides and fucking goal line pucks, but that's besides the point. But what set me off was a particular thing the other night of what you can pretty much say was a textbook definition of interference. And this is where the Leafs fan dynamic came through, of them claiming, and Tyler, you added to this fandom of Leafs by saying that a guy never touching the puck skates in front of and into another player, causing him to no longer be able to play his position.
That's interference.
Other said player goes around him is interference. That one was actually called correctly.
They never call that, though.
Yes, they do.
Not really.
No, that's textbook interference, Tyler.
Big plays happen all the time, and they don't call them.
That's not a big play.
You can't go on saying that they shouldn't be making all these poor calls, and then when the right call is made, you can't say they can't call that.
Nolan.
I actually disagree. I'm on Tyler's side with this. The stakes in which they he skated at him, but there was no big collision. He kind of let up, and then I mean he didn't do himself any favors by falling down and making it appear obvious that it was a collision. Yes, it was very clearly a pick, but with and this is kind of goes into the consistency aspect of it. Who was it on was it Killorn taking a ride on Austin Matthews? Those types of things. And it's that to me was a weak call in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs to erase a goal. And honestly, I think we are really on the same side of this thing, because it's just a frustration to me overall with how does that get called, but then other things that went on in this series did not. And I think when you look at like the summation of the calls that were made in the series, that was without a doubt probably the weakest call in all 7 games.
Yeah, it's and we had talked about it, Ryan. It was like 3 weeks ago. It's the quality and consistency of the officiating. And we saw how many Red Wings get boarded this season or get cross-checked with no calls. And then we get one game where literally every single thing is called. It's at all of the from night to night, and it's because they switch officials. There are officials that'll call things by the rule books, and there are officials that will not call anything. And that's the big issue, is that they all need to go to one official school where they get the same handbook and say, you're going to call these.
Crazy that they have that.
Yeah, you're going to call these, because if you don't, and you don't do it consistently, there's going to be a big problem. And I think that the owners at one point this season had voiced their displeasure with officiating. And basically Gary Bettman told them to shut up and not say anything about not say anything negative about officiating. And that's the complete wrong call, because if you're the owner or if you're the boss of a league, the owners are who are paying your salary, and you should probably start figuring that stuff out.
So the one that truly set me off, going back to the consistency piece, we all know what Oscar Sundqvist was kicked out of a game for.
Oh, the shitty slash?
The slash. That happens how many times throughout a game?
Yep.
It's rarely called for some fucking reason. Now, that one, more egregious, usually they're going to call an overhand chop. Yeah, a slash up across the hands, across the stick. Tell me how.
Did you just say egregious?
I might have fucked it up, whatever.
Egregious? Did you mean egregious?
I've always said egregious.
It's egregious, sir.
Yeah, whatever.
I wonder if you've ever said it and anyone was like, What did he just say?
I didn't mean to throw it off there.
I throw an extra R in there. That's an Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm honored. Continue, Ryan.
Yeah, I always just think about you, Greg. But then look at what Brad Marchand did in the Carolina series, slashing a goaltender.
Oh yeah,
across the fucking chest and arm, and he's given a 2-minute penalty.
Yep.
How is that not worse than what Oscar Sundqvist did?
That's consistency, man. Not consistent.
You had one play that was reviewed and determined, yep, get this motherfucker out of here. But yet the other one, where it actually could have been a damaging type play, you're like, no, you sit there for 2 minutes and think about what you did. Like how? How do you do that?
It makes no sense to me. And I'm sure it also makes no sense to a million other people, because it's literally a topic of conversation every single time there's a game is, how are these refs doing what they're doing? How are they still getting paid to basically not do their job? And I don't know how you fix it, because you've basically been told already that it's not going to be fixed and you should just stop talking about it.
Now, I want to go back to the one, though. Tyler, you think, and I want to hear Nolan's thought on this, the breakaway that was called for a hold and then led to a power play.
That was just a preposterous take from Tyler. Like to say that like you can't call penalties in overtime.
I want to hear your reasoning for this one.
It better be goddamn egregious. Wow. So a motherfucker better be bleeding.
Come on.
You're
saying in overtime you can do whatever you want.
Okay, let me rephrase. A motherfucker better be bleeding. The puck better either be shot out, or there better be a hit from behind, or like fucking someone two-hand somebody.
You
can't call that in overtime. That is not the way Game 7 is supposed to end.
Him. The dude.
If anything, you give the guy a penalty shot.
There we can agree.
That would be egregious. That would be egregious. Imagine losing Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs on a penalty shot.
That would be hilarious.
I'm not even saying that should or should not happen, but like I don't know how you can skip okay, penalties, no. Penalty shots, absolutely, go for it.
Well, of all the ones,
defend
your argument for the pick, I can see your guys' reasoning for that. I can accept that. Do I still think it's a penalty? Yes. Your reasoning right there for that, it technically could have been a penalty shot because he actually didn't get a shot off, and the guy completely eliminated him from being able to do so. But the ref erred on more the side of caution, if you want to call it that, and made it a penalty to keep that game alive, because it could have ended right there in one shot. Then what would your reaction have been?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, like I said, this is why officiating,
that would have been his reaction. Man,
this is why officiating is so subjective, because one person's going to have one opinion, or like I said before, you could have
the problem.
You could have a person.
Officiating should not be subjective, Tyler. That's the problem.
But it's always going to be, because you have a human element to it. It's like the strike zone in baseball. You can have from the letters to the knees be the strike zone, but there's always going to be one Angel Hernandez that calls the strike way above the strike zone or way below, and that's just the way it is.
And they're going to do what? Change that? And they're going to do what with the strike zone soon, Tyler?
Okay, but I understand that, but you can't do that in hockey. How are you going to do that? Maybe eye in the sky, but here's the slippery slope we look at. People watch playoff hockey because it's more interesting. There's something on the line. There's not as many penalties called. The game flows at 5-on-5. Nobody wants to sit there and watch a power play fest. It might be good for the league, and there might be more goals, and that might. I'm sorry, if you need more goals in the league, make the fucking nets bigger, make the goal equipment smaller. Don't start dinking around and calling everything, because no one wants to watch that. Nobody wants to watch that. That is not hockey at its finest. 5-on-3s, 4 or 5 5-on-3s in the same game. You don't see that all season long, and now all of a sudden in the first round of the playoffs, you're going to start, we're going to start laying down the law. Go fuck yourself. That is not the way the National Hockey League is supposed to be.
So you're telling me that if the officials were actually calling the games the right way, that players wouldn't adjust, and that they keep just get out there molesting each other, and they just get penalties?
Maybe the games aren't going to be as interesting to watch.
How so? It's going to open up offense.
I don't care about opening.
There's a reason they changed the way hooking and slashing was called.
This goes back to what I've always said before. And maybe I'm different than almost everybody else. Maybe I am, and that's fine. I like a close, tight checking game in the playoffs, and in the regular season, it's a little bit different because players don't give 110% on every single shift on all 82 games. That's just a known fact. Now, so in the playoffs, it gets magnified. Everybody's giving 110%. People are blocking shots that don't usually. Connor McDavid's laying a hit in Game 7. He doesn't usually hit guys, but he set the tone in that game. You know why? Because it's the Stanley Cup playoffs and things are different. And that's what makes it cool. That's why a lot of more people that don't even watch hockey are like, I don't watch hockey, but I watch playoff hockey, because it's more interesting. It's more physical. There's scrums after things. People are like, oh, take the scrums out. It's ruining my watching ability. It's like, that's what the Stanley Cup playoffs is all about. And by the end of it, you're battered and bruised. And the team that wins the Stanley Cup, it is, it's kind of a war of attrition, really. And so that's what it's all about. And that's why I don't understand why early in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's like, oh, we got to lay down the law. We got to call everything. We got to call it the way it's supposed to be. No one wants to watch that. And I'll tell you one thing right now, if you did like an eye in the sky thing and you started calling everything, it could be like football where there's a holding on every single play. There is infractions on every single play.
Tyler, we've talked about this. That's not what we're asking for.
Okay, but that's what it sounds like. You have
consistency. That's all we're looking for.
Do you think the NHL has the worst officiating, Tyler?
No.
He thinks football has the worst officiating.
The NFL by far.
I had a tweet from March 30th where I said that it was the worst officiating, and Tyler disagreed. So I was hoping to get his ass. But you're consistent. You're consistent.
I also think Major League Baseball has pretty bad umpiring, but I mean that's a whole nother game. The game is so fast.
That's behind the plate. I would say yes. Everywhere else is very solid.
But here's another thing that people aren't realizing too: the Wes McCauleys, the Don Van Massenhovens and the guys that have retired over the last couple of years. I mean, the league has younger officials, and younger officials, I feel like, don't have a feel for the game as some of the older guys have. And maybe that just comes with experience. And maybe that's when, the turnover will start to come, and these guys will get better as time goes on.
Nolan, I'm going to give you the last word on officiating before we move on to a piece of Red Wings news and then our mailbag.
No, yeah, I think the NHL really and I think the thing about officiating is I think that because I'm a big fan of all four sports, and I think at any given time I could say to myself, these officials are the worst in sports. And I don't know what that is a product of. I don't know if it is a product of our new viewing HD experience, if it is a product of every single one of these games getting faster. But I think in the NHL, the games are getting faster, comparatively more so than any other game. And I think that when it comes to, I guess, just calling the rule book like it should be, you even go back to I was reading Gordie Howe's book, Mr. Hockey, a couple months ago. And he talks about you go into a corner with a guy and something you do to let him know is you just put your elbow in his nose, break it. And that was just the way that hockey was played back then. And I think that less and less people want to see the game played like that. And so it's created all of these these battles of where the game is going and how the game should be called. But at the end of the day, I think the only thing that actually matters is that stuff how many times the Red Wings got boarded this year with no call, and the consistency overall. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know if there should be more penalties called, if there should be less penalties called. I really don't have a solution. I do kind of think that maybe an eye in the sky is possibly some sort of solution, but at the end of the day, what does that result? How many more penalties a game does that result in? Should there be an instant video replay official where you can just either confirm or deny it? I think that more so than an eye in the sky, it might be a little bit more appropriate of the high stick in the Maple Leafs game where Cal Foote got hit in the shoulder with a stick and he sold it really well. And that kind of sucks, and I understand that is kind of part of the game, but at the same time, it's we have the video to see that wasn't a high stick. Why can't we do something about it without making it a whole thing? I was watching, I'm a big fan of the John Boy videos, and they were going through how they do replays in cricket. And there was a controversial call in a cricket game. And before the play had even really finished up, there was already a confirmation from the eye in the sky, nope, didn't happen. Keep playing, there needs to be a solution. And I think there's no reason why there can't be a solution. And I feel this way about the NFL as well, as why you can't just have somebody watching to be in the ear of the officials and be no, pick that up. That was a bad call, or yes, that should have been a penalty, whatever it is. It's
kind of
something has to change.
Yeah.
Can't slow the game down by doing it though.
No, that's what I said.
Yeah. That's why you have someone that's like in that situation. You have Premier League soccer, for instance, VAR. As soon as something happens, ref's on his ear, doing a quick check with the guy in the booth who's running through some replays, verifying a foul or not. He says no, boom, goalie, get your kick.
Yeah, it's because they get that information instantly. They get the information instantly. You see how quickly Bally Sports Detroit gets the replay. It's literally 2 seconds after the play happens. There'd be no change. And maybe they just, play is happening to do it. And at the next whistle, they can say, okay, this happened. They don't have to stop play dead to say, oh, there was a penalty. They can wait until a whistle. So you're not going to slow play at all. But I agree with Nolan. Something needs to be done. It's just what's the best way to do it. And I think maybe it is someone in Toronto just constantly watching the feed. A linesman or a ref says, hey, we think this happened, and they can go back and look at it.
At that point,
would you maybe do it like the NBA does and do it in the last 2 minutes or something of each period? Or
why? When you can just do it while play's happening.
And I hate to bring another sport into this, but the NFL Saints versus Rams game with the pass interference that didn't get called, that to me is the most egregious mistake in officiating history, because like there is no reason, there's no fathomable reason as to why that should have happened. I don't know if people are listening to this or
Wait, is that the Saints Vikings game that you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the Saints Rams in 2018 when that dude got absolutely blown up. Like what? And the ref just like failed to throw a pass interference flag. And like they tried to like change a rule on it that season. They were like, okay, now pass interference can be reviewed.
And now it's not.
Yeah.
And so they like implemented this like new video system or whatever. Like there was a whole process to it when realistically there is zero reason why there shouldn't be somebody up in the press box going, you got to throw a flag on that. That was a clear pass interference.
That's where a VAR thing comes in.
Yep. Yeah.
The VAR system could work across all the major sports without taking the officials off the field. Like the NBA's review system is awful. It takes
the NBA as a whole is awful.
Well, we're not going to dive into that, but like just the way that they have to review shit. Two out of three officials are the only ones that are allowed to look at it, but they sit there at a screen. And it just wastes so much time, takes both teams completely out of it. You could argue the same thing with the way the NFL review system is, but in college, but at least with that one, they're completely reviewing a play.
Yeah.
But it takes 2 to 3 minutes. NBA's takes it seems like every time 5 to 10, unless it's blatantly obvious. But you could have someone just there. I like the VAR idea in my head because really, I think all the sports, because of the speed and complexity of how things are, and the fact that we have the technology to not have someone up above reviewing at all times. What was it? Was the XFL that ran through something like that, where they had an eye in the sky official, that they were the first ones to do something like that?
God, I probably watched one XFL game.
I think the XFL had something, but it worked. And they also had like pinpoint accuracy for spotting the football too when it came to measurements and reviews. Like, why isn't that type of technology in the NFL? A game that's all about inches, like for first downs, like we have fucking
an index
3x5 index card getting used to check for a first down. Like that type of shit shouldn't have to happen.
Because one, they've already got the fan base, so they don't care.
Yeah.
And two, because it causes controversy and it makes people talk.
It eliminates controversy. Well, okay, you're saying how it's done.
It creates conversation. Yeah. But we do have to take a quick break for a sponsor message before we continue. So we'll be back in just 1 second. What's up? It's Greg here from the Grindline podcast with a message from Manscaped. Growing out your playoff beard, let that thing loose up top, but our friends at Manscaped are here to help you avoid a jumbo Joe downstairs. The global leaders in below-the-waist grooming want to save your hockey pucks from a slap shot in crunch time this playoff season. 4 million men worldwide trust Manscaped to prepare them for the Stanley Cup. Join them and go to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code GRINDLINE. Shaving your balls starts with the perfect package for your package, the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and has a 400K LED spotlight when you need a more precise shave. The Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer is also included in this package, which is also waterproof, uses skin-safe technology, so you can keep the unnecessary roughness on the ice where it belongs. There is no more pinching. There is no more pulling. There's no more crying because you're ripping out your nose hairs. Shaves them clean off with no issues at all whatsoever. The Crop Preserver is an anti-chafing ball deodorant to keep your balls sticking to your legs from end to end. No one will be chirping you anymore. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. It's made with soothing aloe and witch hazel extracts that will give your balls a boost. Manscaped even threw in their Shed travel bag. Amazing bag, super soft, has just enough room for all the tools plus some extras. It's not too big. My problem is generally that the bags are too small and cannot fit everything, so I end up throwing extra stuff in a backpack. This bag is just the right size. The boys will be buzzing this Stanley Cup lineup from Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GRINDLINE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code GRINDLINE at manscaped.com. Don't be a goon fighting your bush with the wrong trimmer. Choose the right tools for the job this playoff season with Manscaped. And we're back, and there is a little bit of Red Wings news before we get into our mailbag. And so the Red Wings today, they announced today that the Red Wings have signed forward Pontus Andreasson from Luleå in the SHL, where he was, I believe, now the second highest scoring SHL rookie this season. I have the Red Wings article pulled up. It says Andreasson, 23, recently completed his first season with Luleå HF in the Swedish Hockey League, ranking among the SHL rookie leaders with 18 goals, where he was second, 20 assists, tied for first, 38 points second, 5 power play goals second, 13 power play points second. Wow, they put a lot of information in here. 22 penalty minutes, a plus 19, and 15 minutes and 30 seconds ATOI. He's 5'10", 183, so he's a little smaller. But he also had 13 points in 13 postseason contests, taking Luleå to the SHL playoff finals. The clips that I've seen of him, he's a smooth skating forward. He's got hands. He looks good. He's excited to come over. Nolan, have you done anything on him? Have you looked him up?
I haven't really looked into him too much, but I really feel like people should temper their expectations about him because he's 23 years old and he's Michael Bunting rookie in the SHL. I'm like,
oh no.
I mean, not really, but let's pump the brakes on it a little bit. I think it has very high potential to just be another Matthias Brome situation where he comes over and it just doesn't work out. And I don't even know because I was reading that too. And I'm assuming it's a 2-way contract. So who knows how much run he even gets in the NHL this year.
Yeah, I didn't say what the terms were, did that?
Yeah, I didn't see any terms because I also have, I believe, was it Kevin Allen or Bob Duff on this Detroit Hockey Now? It was Bob Duff. I have his pulled up. It says it's just a 1-year contract. That's all they say. But speaking of Brome, for people that need to, like you said, temper their expectations, the 2021 season, Matthias Brome scored 1 goal for the Wings in 26 games, though he had 1.5 million chances to score. It just didn't happen. The other one I need to remind everyone, after playing 6 games for the Red Wings in 2018-19, Czech defenseman Libor Sulak returned to Europe. Slovak goalie Patrick Rybar and Czech goalie Matej Machovsky and Finnish defenseman Oliver Kaski never played a single NHL game for Detroit. The only one in recent memory that was decent was Damian Brunner, who scored 12 goals in 44 games during the 2012-13 season. Went to Jersey and then fell off the face of the planet. So they sometimes they work, and maybe I have a little bit more faith this time because it is Steve Yzerman making the move, and because I see the skill in the SHL that he has shown, and maybe he's just a late bloomer because 23 is not super old, but he was undrafted, and this is a hope strategy, I think, right now. And if he does play with the Wings, I mean, that's icing on top. You just picked up a good free agent.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the highlights from his playoff series, or the couple series that was actually put out there. Is there some potential there? Sure. But again, he's a winger, potentially center, left-hand shot. For one, whose spot's he going to take?
Yep.
And because you're either talking about maybe Berggren being an odd man out, which that's a very stretch of the imagination thing that I'm saying. But is he going to replace someone? Is he going to take that next step to really show that he's deserving to be in the NHL? Or is it, like you said, is he going to be making Brandon and Jen happy out there in Grand Rapids by lighting things up, potentially coming here and then just kind of shit in the bed?
Because they're going to need people. Grand Rapids is going to need bodies because they're
especially on defense.
Yeah, they're going to lose some people. So I'm
excited
that
he's playmaking. It looks like he's a very smooth passer. There's one in particular that he made that was cross ice. He's coming down the right wing, and I think he just threw it off his backhand to someone that was cutting the net for an attempt or a goal. I forget, but he's very hockey smart. It seems like, but we won't really know until we see him in action up what could or couldn't happen, and it also depends on how the draft goes and how free agency period goes. So
and training camp
and that. So there's more against him than anything.
Yep.
If he ends up being a guy that's in Grand Rapids, it's not a bad thing. If he makes Detroit, it may not also be a bad thing, but it just depends on where prospects and free agency plays out. That's really going to, maybe Yzerman's just trying to stack the cover to make training camp a freaking nightmare.
Harold Castro home run. Nice.
So from what I see here, it does say waivers exempt. So that would be a two-way deal, right?
Yep.
So it's, to me, this reeks of like a low risk, potentially high reward or middle reward. I guess at the very least, he plays in Grand Rapids.
The way of the deal is just about money. If it's a two-way contract, he makes less money in the AHL than he does in the NHL. If it's a one-way contract,
one-way or two-way, he's just able to get clear through waivers, not have any issues.
Okay, so it just says RFA then after this year, so
because
it's
he's
a
23
one-year deal with him making $925,000.
Yep.
So
I like the signing on paper.
It doesn't hurt. It hurts nothing.
You know what I would say? I like the idea of the signing. I like the idea of Steve Yzerman going to Sweden or other places and just trying to see if he can kind of throw something against the wall and hope it sticks. I mean, because we've talked about the rebuild itself, if you're going to accelerate the rebuild, and I'm not saying Pontus Andreasson accelerates the Red Wings rebuild, but in terms of like getting filler players, like you're going to have to at some point pay these guys that you already have. And so filler players are going to be important. So if you can find a guy in Sweden who can be at least an important player going forward or a filler player going forward, there's no reason why you can't, why that guy can't be a part of your team. And, you have to hit on one or two of these once in a while. So
it'd be a lot easier to pay him than Adam Ernie.
Right. Exactly. And it's probably more beneficial for him to play than Adam Ernie.
I do have one correction to make.
Close to the same age, aren't they?
Adam Ernie?
No, Ernie's got to be like 26, 27.
No, I think he'll be 26. I just closed out.
Adam Ernie is 27 years old.
Is he finally 27? Oh.
April 20th.
I did learn to skate with him, by the way.
I hate to draw another sport comparison into it again, but there's a reason why college basketball, seniors don't get drafted as lottery picks. And it's because the ceiling is just simply not that high. And this feels like they just signed a fifth year senior out of college, it's kind of the same, he might be able to be a role guy, but there's a reason why he wasn't drafted at 18, 19, 20. And he had a great playoff. He was a point per game player in the playoffs, but if you look at that, even in the Swedish one league or whatever it's called, his production really was not that impressive. So
no,
we'll see what happens.
I would just don't go in the latest Spider-Man line. If you expect disappointment, you'll never be disappointed. So that just don't go in with super high expectations and you'll be fine. But we're going to move on to our mailbag. What I'm going to do this time.
I want to do one correction on myself.
Jesus Christ, Ryan, what?
I was trying to say that too, but Nolan had to make a fantastic point, so I was waiting. The Cowboys did at least win a playoff series in 2018. It wasn't the Lions in 2014.
There you go.
They beat Seattle. I had to double check because I was like, that doesn't feel right.
No, right.
I had to clear the air because there's probably some pissed off Cowboys fan this stupid motherfucker.
And to that point, everybody loves when the Cowboys lose. I hate to keep harping on this, but everybody rightfully so loves it when the Cowboys lose.
It takes one day off of Jerry Jones' life. That's what happens every time they lose.
I don't think he can die.
We are going to move on to our mailbag. What I'm going to do this time, we're going to probably go through these a little bit quickly. But Nolan, I'm going to give you the first crack at a lot of these, just to kind of get your thoughts on them. And the first one is more of a recent kind of development here. Brian Johnson at DET_sports_ on Twitter just asks, plainly, thoughts on Pete DeBoer. Nolan?
I am not really that interested. I think last year, with that, I think every fan base that has seen Pete DeBoer exit has done so with jubilation.
Exactly.
And I think that is a poor sign. He's had 4 stints in the NHL. He's made 2 Stanley Cup finals, to his credit. He's made a couple conference finals.
Both conferences.
But by the same token, I was looking at his win percentage today. If you count overtime losses, against winning percentage, I don't think he's above 500 or he's very close to it. And to have 4 stints in the NHL like that, it's also just not really that impressive if you're going to keep going back to the well. I also don't think Steve Yzerman is a guy who will go back to the well and make this type of hire. And then my last point on Pete DeBoer is I was looking at his just like track record. He has coached like 10 years in the NHL. He's won his division once.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
So it's Pete DeBoer's fourth NHL head coaching gig. Actually, if you count overtime losses as losses, he is one game above 500. 14 seasons in the NHL. His overall record is 513, 379, and 123. He's coached for the Knights, the Sharks, the Devils, and the Panthers. I'm also not interested, mostly going back to the point of please destroy the old boys club and get some fresh faces, fresh ideas, fresh systems in here. Give some people a chance, because if you're never going to give people a chance, you're going to stagnate the game. I mean, you took Cooper from the AHL to the NHL and he won Stanley Cups. So, I mean, Yzerman's done it once. Someone brought up the point, Yzerman has never hired a previous NHL coach. There's not really a track record there. He's had, 2 hires. So I don't think that can really be given anything, but I just, it's not my thing. I say no.
Yeah. I'm not going to regurgitate. I'm a no.
Yeah, I'm a hard no. I think DeBoer, he did a good job with the Devils. I think he did a good job with the Sharks too, but then Vegas, I don't know. I'm a hard no on him. I don't think he's a coach that's probably long for the NHL. I think if you're going to make a hire here, it's got to be someone either fresh or someone from the old boys club that has kind of reinvigorated themselves or, reincarnated themselves or whatever. But I'm a no on DeBoer.
From Jimmy St. Dennis at James St. Dennis _ on Twitter, who will join the Red Wings in free agency? This is a big question that I think is going to be kind of rather boring going into the offseason.
Unrestricted free agents.
Sure.
This is like one of those impossible questions to answer, especially with Steve Yzerman and especially with a team that is at this point in the rebuild, because I don't ever really see him going out and getting like a big fish. Like, I don't think he'll ever be somebody that goes out and like tries for a Johnny Gaudreau or a Philip Forsberg or something like that, especially when you know that like you're going to eventually have to pay all your big dogs if they end up working out, Sider, Raymond. I really think, and he also mentioned in his end of the year press conference, was that like when he makes acquisitions, he's looking for guys that might kind of fit that timeline in that 24, 26-year-old range. And so I just don't know like what he's necessarily going to go out and acquire, because most of those guys are RFAs. But I would say like one thing I'm not against, and something I kind of harped on towards the end of last season and going into last off season, is I would not. I don't know if I would necessarily be surprised or not by this happening, but like I wouldn't hate seeing them like throw a substantial amount of money to somebody on like a very short-term deal, like go out and maybe try for an Evgeny Malkin on a 2-year deal or something. And like Malkin is just a name I'm throwing out there because like there was a report that came out today that like the Athletics Pittsburgh guy said that
I saw it.
Malkin played his last game in a Penguins uniform, so he's fresh on my mind. But somebody like that, or you can go out, sign for 2 years, overpay for a little bit, and kind of sell like, hey, like we might be able to do something here. We might be able to make another playoff run, whatever it may be, and know that you're not going to hurt the future, but you might save yourself another year of picking in the lottery again next year. Because I think if you really are going to try and do anything this offseason, it's just get over that hump, make a playoff push, get that experience of like Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider, like being in a playoff race, from games 60 to 82. Same with Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi, and just guys who haven't experienced that before in the NHL. I think that's actually important this season.
Yeah. On the Malkin point, there was a tweet that came out today. It says Penguins insider, Real Rob Rossi says on 93.7 The Fan that Penguins offered Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin 3-year deals worth $15 million each, and that those lowball offers did not sit well with Sidney Crosby.
15 million total?
3 years, $15 million for each. To be $5 million a season.
Ooh.
So, and apparently Crosby was pissed off by it.
Well, yeah, you got Malkin right now making 9.5 and Letang making 7.25. So
now Letang is old, Malkin's not that old.
Letang's 35. Malkin's 30. They're both.
But Evgeny Malkin hasn't played 60 games in the season in like years.
Yeah, but Letang has also had his injury issues the last couple of years too.
Well, then we've had people asking about Brian Rust, and I'm like, again, Brian Rust isn't a guy that really fits the timeline. And if you're going for guys that are 26, like right at that RFA age, your options are extremely limited.
Well,
but we've had people saying
more money in term.
Right. Yeah. But you got people saying, oh, Yzerman's going to go out and sign five free agents. And I just don't see it happening. I mean, I'm maybe 2. I don't see 5 free agents coming in. And you're going to have to replace. I mean, if you let Mark Stahl walk, if Mark Stahl decides that he's done, which he shouldn't be because Mark Stahl, look at him. He's still got hockey left in him. You're going to need a defenseman. I mean, you're going to need a defenseman anyways. If you let a Sam Gagner walk, you're going to need a forward, but you also need spots for rookies, even though Yzerman said he's not going to save spots. So, I mean, I don't see, like you said, Nolan, it's hard to gauge who you can take in free agency. I said I'd like a Victor Trocheck or I'd like a Ryan Strome just to solidify center. Vincent Trocheck, sorry. Just to solidify the center role. But that, again, they're going to want term and they're going to want money. So I don't know how you go there. And
the older guys I was talking about too, they're going to want to try and win another cup before their careers over.
Exactly.
So
they've tasted it already. They don't want to go to a team that's like, we might get to the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
And you also think like Malkin and Letang, those guys in particular, like, are they really going to stoop to the level of Detroit? And what I mean by that is a team that you were a rival against, like going in the recent history of like, that was the bar. Pittsburgh had to get past Detroit and had all that bad blood, fan bases hating each other. Would I be mad about it? No, I wouldn't be mad about Malkin, right? But you got to think that's in a sense that they're not going to look at it and be like, yeah, I'll come go.
I think money would solve all the problems though, especially if getting Malkin. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's recent, but I mean, 2009,
that's 13 years ago.
Yeah, it's 13 years. I mean, that's a long time ago, really, if you think about it. So
got a lot more grace.
I would be okay. So here's kind of where I sit with it. I think Vinny Trocheck or Ryan Strome are both good options. I like Trocheck a lot. I'm not sure how old is he? Is he almost 30?
He's 28.
28. Yep. Okay. I mean, so that's not ideal, but I mean, if you can get him on a decent contract,
he'll be 29 in July.
Vinny Trocheck's not going to get $7 million per year, I don't think, So if you could get him at 5.5 per year for 4 years, 5 years, you're not going to give him a 7-year deal, right?
No.
No.
I don't know.
I like Trocheck. About giving a 7-year deal to should be Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, 8-year for Dylan Larkin.
Yeah.
But actually, Nolan,
sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, go ahead and finish your point. I'll go back to Larkin.
I was going to say, which I do think he gets on his next deal.
That's what I was thinking to my questions. Do you think that he should have, that's what we should be seeing with Larkin?
What's your money on Larkin, Nolan?
That's tough. I honestly probably think a little bit below market value. And then obviously it really depends on what kind of year he has this year too.
I think he gets signed before this season. I think it happens this summer.
I think he gets done in like plenty of time. I don't know if it'll be this summer or when exactly it happens, but I think it'll be like well before the end of next year. We're not going to be in a Gabe Landeskog situation by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know. And he's kind of tough because like his production has kind of gone up and down a little bit at times. And I like don't want to speak ill of Dylan Larkin in any way, but like these are the things that are going to get brought up in the contract negotiation. So I don't really see him being like a $8, $9, $10 million guy, maybe like 7.5, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I had him at a high for the crazy number would have been 9.5, but I've got him at about 8.5 million. And I mean, it's Yzerman. The contracts always go Yzerman's way.
And that's part of my, figure there.
I think the biggest thing, I'll do a very quick point, is he's not going to get more than Stamkos. And he's at 8.5.
How long ago was Stamkos signed? Was that 4 years ago now or 5?
2016.
Yeah, that's a while ago. I mean, market's gone up.
I get the market's gone up, cap's getting ready to go up, but you still look at the level of play and what that's the point of Stamkos being signed to at that time. I get it. The cap was lower, but here's where the 1C conversation comes into effect a little bit. Is Larkin to a point of a Steven Stamkos to garner such that much of a cap hit in comparison to like a Stamkos at the same time?
Sure. I understand where you're coming from.
I think if you're going at 8.5 and below, I think it's appropriate.
Okay. From Captain Larkin is a 1C fight me on Twitter at deathmetal2474. How would you feel if the Wings moved up in the rankings 4 or 5 spots? It's an improvement, sure, but would that be disappointing or expected? I assume he means next season in the rankings 4 or 5 spots.
Means they're a playoff team.
Yeah, well, if you moved up 4, you go from 8 because we were 8th worst to 12th worst or 13th worst. You're at a bubble team at that point. I think that's what's expected next season is to be a bubble kind of team, not to make the playoffs, but it depends on how everyone else does. I mean, to me, that's expected. There's a bunch of people that are like, oh, Red Wings are definitely in the playoffs next season. And then we had Max on and Max is like, pump the brakes. I wouldn't really expect the Red Wings to be in the playoffs next season. There may be the makeup there to do it, but it should be no one's expectation. So I think 4 or 5 spots is probably spot on.
Go ahead.
It depends because I was actually doing a little bit of research in advance of this question. This season, more so than any other season in the Eastern Conference, there is a absolute cavernous divide between the 8th best team and the 9th best team. So I was doing a little bit of research on this. And what I really think we have to do with this question is not put it in the terms of where they're at technically in the standings, but like within how many points of a playoff spot they are at the end of the year. I think they should be within 8-10 points of a playoff spot next year. Like that to me is like the place that you want to be. But if you look at the Eastern Conference this year, there's a 16-point divide between the last team that got in the playoffs and the first team that missed the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. 2021, it was a weird year because of COVID. 1920, it was a COVID year, but there were 2 points in the East separating 6 through 11. There was 4 points separating 6 through 11 in the West. And then in 18-19, there was 12 points separating 8 through 10, 10 points separating 8 through 13 in the West. So I am really interested to see where this goes. And I think that this is a bigger hockey discussion overall because I wonder, like, and I don't really know where I'm going, but like the tanking measures, like they are very, very clearly not helping. And I think that the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference this year tells that story better than really anything, because basically what it's saying is you can't move up if you are, the 15th through the 12th team in the lottery. So there is an actual incentive to fall out of the playoff race if you're a little bit close, but don't think you can win it all. Yeah. And I think that's an issue.
Well, the parity in the NHL is a farce. That's what it is.
But at the same time, the 8 teams that did make it in the Eastern Conference were all really, really good. I think when you go into this playoffs, you could honestly look at each team, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, and say this team has a chance to go to the Stanley Cup final. And that is why we've had so many of these game 7s in both conferences, really, because even in the West, like there were 8 points separating the 8th through 11 teams. That's still a bigger divide than it has been in recent years. Like the only actually close playoff race that there was will the Vegas Golden Knights or the Dallas Stars get in. And to me, like you have seen that play out for better or worse with these playoffs so far in the first round.
I kind of wonder, here's where I sort of wish they would go back to just a 1 through 8 seeding, because I feel like several years, like in mid 2000s, especially, it always seemed like it came down to the wire of what 6 through 10 was going to be. There were 6 through 12 for that matter. And if Detroit moves up those 4 to 5 spots, if they're taking the place of the New York Islanders and they're that 16 points back of eighth place Washington, I'm not really hating life too much.
No, me either.
Because they're crushing some hopes of teams in their division, while also winning games that you think they probably should win, and not losing to a team like Arizona 9-2. So is it doable? I don't think I can answer that yet. And I only say that you need the offseason this year.
And this past season, by the standings and the wins and losses, I don't think was a disappointment. By the way that they lost those games at the end of the year was the disappointment. Yep. And so, I mean, there's a little bit of nuance to this conversation. But.
Yeah, we had said that we expected the losses. We did not expect the blowouts. That was the big problem. Is the losing is fine, but the way you lost is what sucks. So,
I think that ultimately is where it was the not so surprising move to see Jeff Blashill not returning. Yep. But I think if those games played out differently and we don't see as many blowout losses as we can easily call them, that he's probably still here for one more season. I honestly believe that would have been the case.
Fun question time. Fun. Just to throw out it's a one line answer. Abe Froman on Twitter at Abe Damn Froman, Sausage King of Sausage King of Chicago. What big roster move will be caused by Max Bultman taking a vacation? Ryan, big roster
contract extension.
A what?
He can't be announced till after
that's right.
League year. I don't know.
Tyler Bertuzzi trade.
Or a Hronek trade.
A trade could happen. A trade would have to be the most likely.
Wait, can that happen though?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can trade players at any time.
Yep. Trading's wide open right now.
Yeah. The only thing you can trade players at any time during the year. It's whether or not they qualify for playoffs or not. If they're traded after the deadline, they do not qualify for playoffs.
I feel like the big thing that's going to happen this week, if it was a big news item, would be a coach
hiring. Okay.
Yeah. That'd be about the only thing we could probably maybe see.
Well, I think that leads into the second part of their question. Any off the radar coaching candidates that people should be looking at? They asked about Jim Montgomery, or is he a bad idea? Nolan, who's your top coach candidate right now?
I'm going to be honest. I don't really have one. And that's just because it's like such a thing that you have to dig into. And I got to be honest, like I really haven't had the time as of late. So I'm just going to say Sergei Fedorov. It's a dumb answer. It's the easy answer. And,
that can get you flack.
I think it would make a lot of people happy. So, sure. And it fits the criteria. Somebody Steve Yzerman knows, but doesn't know too well as a general manager. So I don't know. That was a stupid answer. And I'm sorry that I can't give a more intelligent one, but I'm going to go with Sergei, number 91.
I don't think any of us really have any off the radar coaches. I think the one that was brought up so far, recently, is saying maybe he's waiting for the AHL season to finish up, and maybe he'll hire Benoit Gruel, who is the coach of the Syracuse Crunch, which would make sense. Syracuse has been a good team. Benoit Gruel has been coaching Syracuse since 2016-17, which means Stevie hired him there. So he knows him. He's familiar with how he works. Benoit Gruel is apparently familiar with how Stevie works. Ryan, Tyler, do you guys have any off the wall coaching people?
I don't know if it's off the wall, but I know a lot of people have been beating the drum up for Derek Lalonde as the potential head coach. I think he's been the assistant in Tampa since 17-18 or 18-19. He's been a coach in the AHL, been a head coach in the ECHL, the USHL. He's also been an assistant at Denver and I believe Ferris State. So, that's another name that kind of sticks out to me a little bit from that Tampa organization. I actually do think that there's a potential that this coaching vacancy gets filled from someone that's either in the Tampa organization or has previously been in the Tampa organization.
Makes sense.
You're going to put all your money on the fact of his press conference about where he kind of likes going to someone
people that he knows, people that he's worked with, people that know how he works. Yeah, it makes.
It could also be someone. that he's previously crossed paths with, either in Detroit or,
Well, we know it's not going to be somebody he played with.
Yeah, it's not Lane Lambert, who was just announced as the coach of the Islanders. From Mitch DeBruyne on Twitter at MitchDB3001. Yes or no answer. Do we ship out either Bertuzzi or Hronek in a trade this summer? Nolan?
No.
Ryan?
But if they do, I think they're going to get an absolute haul. So
for Bert, yes. For Hronek, I think you're trading low.
We'll see about that. He had a pretty good year, like by the analytics, and I think that like that will play into everything. Like, sure. I don't think that you trade Hronek for a bag of pucks. Like
I don't think you trade Hronek this season at all, and you see what you can do with him with another coach.
I think it's the case for everybody. It's gonna have to be a redemption for some guys. Like I don't think, as much as it would be fun to see the type of haul a Bert could receive, at the same time, the only thing I think that would make sense for a Bertuzzi trade is making it a trade like the Mantha for Vrana, where you're getting a skilled player back on top of something else, because you're losing a lot by getting rid of Tyler Bertuzzi. And there's not a whole lot there to fill that vacancy, if you will.
Yeah. So
unless you're getting someone like that would have to be, to me, more of a hockey trade than anything else. You're not just doing a pick dump unless you're trying to go for an extra top 5 pick somehow. At least
Tyler,
I would say yes, and the only reason I say that, I don't know obviously what the move could be, but I did hear that Merrick was talking about what's happening with the Maple Leafs and what kind of player they need.
They had targeted Bertuzzi before.
He has said Bertuzzi before, and he did say it again, and he said a potential Liljegren for Bertuzzi and a first from Toronto to Detroit.
Nope.
I mean,
nope.
There's an idea. I mean, I'm not saying that's specifically what it would be, but what about William Nylander?
Okay.
That's a swap.
It's a swap. I'm not sure it does anything for me. I mean, that you would have to throw in more. They'd have to really want Bertuzzi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying specifically that's what it would be. I'm just saying the idea of Tyler Bertuzzi going somewhere, Toronto, Boston, one of those places that they're looking to still continue to push their window and get maybe a little bit tougher to play against.
It's got a window. There's no doubt about that. But
no. I think the thing with like Bertuzzi that makes it hard to like compare it in terms of like speculating on what they could get in return. I think the thing that makes it a little difficult to compare it to that Mantha deal is that like you were trading somebody in Mantha who was disappointing you for somebody in Vrana who was disappointing the Capitals, and like Tyler Bertuzzi his value is higher than it's ever been, I would argue.
Yeah,
and absolutely. So it's like, how do you win that trade? Like, and who's making that trade with you?
So Toronto, I think, makes sense because Bertuzzi's the kind of player they need in the playoffs.
But like, who do they give you that? Like, they're not going to give you Nylander. And if they give you William Nylander, you literally drive to the border and drop Tyler Bertuzzi off there yourself.
Well, is Tyler Bertuzzi allowed to go over the border now?
It doesn't matter. If he's traded at that point, who cares?
I would agree.
That's somebody else's problem to figure out.
I would agree. All right. Last two questions we're going to get to. These are just kind of fun ones. Pete, the professor at Professor My Bad on Twitter, says, finish this sentence. Pucks on blank.
Not.
I'm going to say goal. Pucks on goal.
Pucks on net, baby.
You're wrong. It's
always pucks on net.
I know it's pucks on net.
Doesn't matter where you're on the ice. Pucks on net.
Yeah,
Tyler, where are you putting your pucks?
Deep.
Pucks in deep. But that doesn't make sense. It's not pucks on deep. It's pucks in deep.
So pucks on. Yeah, pucks on net.
Yeah. From Brandon at BK62.
Time out. Hold on. Greg, that needs to be a t-shirt. I'm just saying.
Why?
Pucks on net, man.
I'm pretty sure Bring Hockey Back already has a pucks on net shirt.
Okay, well,
so does
put it on top of a net.
Jesus. The last question from Brandon at BK62, and this is directed directly at Nolan. When will Dumpster Buns make his appearance back in the EASHL club?
That's a good question. Like I said, off IR, rehab's going well. Hoping to make my return shortly, but unfortunately, no timetable to return at this point in time. But I think I'm close. I think he's close.
We don't got a clearance from the doctors yet.
Yeah, no, not yet. Yeah. Soon.
To answer the rest of
you're pulling free-for-all, aren't you? Is that what's happening, or is that what you're trying to say until the next tournament hits?
Yeah.
Are you a cap circumvention, Nolan?
You could say that. I could say that.
To answer the rest of Brandon's question, do we think Johansson makes the jump ahead of or with Edvinsson? I don't think ahead of or with. I think Edvinsson starts the year. I think Johansson comes up later.
I agree.
Could Kosa be the next Ottinger?
3 to 4 years.
With how he's playing right now, sure. Ottinger was great in that series, and Kosa, I think you would hope Kosa would be better than that. And he says in 3 to 4 years. Yeah, Kosa's killing the playoffs right now, but the Wheat Kings are a stacked team. They're just so good. And
there has to do with the stacked team, though.
Sure, but there are shutouts where he's getting, it's a shutout, but it's like 17 saves. So they're just
look what Chris Osgood did with the same type of Red Wings teams all those years.
Look at Chris Osgood, who's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame and who is considered by many to be a mediocre goalie. So you don't need the best goalie.
When you're making that comparison, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is what Osgood has been shit on for no reason, in my opinion.
Sure. But we're going to sign off for tonight. Nolan, is there anything you'd like to promote? Anything? Give us your Twitter, where people can find you, read your stuff.
Go subscribe to the Detroit News if you like soccer. I'm now on the Detroit City FC beat over there for Det News, so sign up for that. I try and do my absolute best to make sure that your dollar is stretched as far as possible. My latest edition of our magazine, I'm on the cover, and I have 2 stories in there, so pretty big. Some exposés, like a column type of deal in there on the USFL. So if you're into that, go ahead and check that out. And then lastly, follow me on Twitter at Nolan Bianchi, and hopefully should have some big stuff coming soon. Can't really say what, but big things ahead.
You forgot one thing to mention.
What's that?
You got to talk about your pickleball.
Oh, pickleball. That's right. If you can find the Chris Draper, or if you can find the Our Detroit Health Guide, buy that as well. I have the cover story in that edition as well. Chris Draper and his love for pickleball. I talked to him. I went out and I watched him play pickleball one day. Talked to Dan Cleary, who is on IR right now, unfortunately recovering from back surgery. Both good guys, and story I really enjoyed writing. So go check that out. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
Ryan.
No, I don't really have a whole lot to cover on. We beat the horses, I think, enough in terms of officiating in Toronto. So if you're not watching the playoffs, I can't stress it enough. Go watch the playoffs.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Been so fantastic, and it's kind of wash, rinse, repeat in terms of that. Every year, you can argue that the NHL playoffs never disappoint. So tonight's one of the rare off nights of nothing crazy going on. But we had what was it? 5 Game 7s.
5 Game 7s.
Has there been that many Game 7 series?
Yeah, there has.
1993, I believe.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a long time.
But it was all good series. I can't wait for the Battle of Alberta.
Oh.
That's going to be so much fun to watch. As long as if Edmonton switches to the proper jersey, I feel like they win.
They're not going to.
No, I know they won't. But
they love that dark blue.
There's a lot of shit going on. It was Nolan, I appreciate you coming on tonight. So on that one, I'll say Artie Ryan 33.
Tyler.
Yeah, my final thoughts are, the playoffs have been fantastic. Like I said, they started out slow, but I think they've gotten better as the games have gone on. This Battle of Alberta has a chance to be great, but I feel like it also has a chance for Calgary to kind of run away with it if they play their game. I'm really looking forward to the Battle of Florida. I think that's going to be fun. I really think that the Panthers and Lightning is going to be good. And then I wouldn't sneak out on the Blues and the Avs. I think that's going to be a good series. I think a lot of people aren't giving the Blues a chance. I think the Blues have a really good shot at winning that series. But like I said, if you haven't watched the playoffs, you got to continue to watch it. It's going to get better as it goes on. And you can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
My final thoughts are going to be Tyler's in another fucking universe if he thinks the Blues are beating the Avalanche in this series coming up.
I think the Avalanche are a bunch of frauds. That's what I think.
No way it's going to happen.
It happens every year. It's the definition of insanity.
Not with the Blues and the Avalanche ain't going to happen. My big thing is going to be, God, I hope it's done tomorrow. If you go to grindlinepodcast.com, we actually are launching a website, or I'm launching a website that I've been building for the past week. So you'll be able to get all our episodes there. We're actually syndicating content from our favorite Red Wings blogs and places all into one spot. We have a section on the bottom that I'm going to throw you on, Nolan, that is accounts that we love. I put them in there in their Twitter handle so people can go follow people that we follow. I'm going to do scores, and I've got a calendar up there that's going to populate the schedule. And you'll be able to find everything on our website. It will be grindlinepodcast.com. It is already functional, and it's like 90% done. So I'm hoping I can get the next 10% done tomorrow before I post this. And then it's 100% done, and I don't have to worry about anything. But again, thank you, Nolan, for coming on and talking to us. It's great having you on. We'll have you back on before the season starts up too and before training camp.
Whenever you would like.
Yeah, just drop me a line. You want to come on? It's fine. Just come on.
Appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
We also like to give a shout out to Howie's Hockey Table. If you use a promo code Grindline, you get 10% off your order. If you use that same promo code on Bring Hockey Back, you get 12% off. We also give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network at HockeyPodNet on Twitter for hosting us and spreading our podcast around. Same thing with Vintage Detroit, the best place to get any of your Detroit gear, jerseys, shirts, whatever, for all the major Detroit sports teams. They are absolutely fantastic. You can check them out on Twitter by going to just searching Vintage Detroit. You'll find their tag. And we like to give a shout out to Manscaped, where if you use the promo code Grindline, you will get 20% off your order plus free worldwide shipping. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, thank you, Nolan. I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockeytown.